SwiftUI makes displaying static images easy, but what about these fun animated GIFs? I personally love using them, whether it's on Discord or even text messages. I'm a GIF fanatic, and I say GIF, not GIF. I don't know. But the native image view doesn't always support all image types. For GIFs, for instance, they're actually not supported. In this video, we're going to explore two solutions: the easy button by using a third-party library, and the pro way by bridging to UIKit with UIViewRepresentable. I'll even show you how to display them as well in WebView. So here we can actually grab a GIF URL from the internet, one of my favorite ones, the Hard at Work cat. I like cat memes, okay? And we can actually use the WebKit in order to display them. We'll also be going over, as I mentioned, the kind of UIKit bridging, as well as the Gifu or Gifu GIF view, where I got this spinning cat here. So if you're interested in one of these methods, make sure you check out the timestamps on the video here or in the description below, as well as if you want to download this sample project, you can also find the link to my GitHub pages, and you can download the zip file there as well. Otherwise, if you're ready to start showing GIFs in your SwiftUI apps, let's go ahead and dive on in. So the simplest way is to use the Gifu or similar third-party library for a quick win. This handles the decoding, caching, playback, minimal code, and it's really great for beginners if you don't want the hassle of the UIKit bridging. So the first thing we need to do is add Gifu with Swift Package Manager to our Swift project. The link for this GitHub will be in the description below, otherwise it is also on the screen here, and we're going to be using this GitHub in order to import with the Swift Package Manager. There is also the install process on the GitHub itself, but it's super easy with Swift Package Manager. In Xcode, we'll go to File, Add Package Dependencies. Then you'll want to paste the URL in the search, and in the top right here, see Gifu. And what I would suggest doing for the dependency rule, I would change this to be 4.0.0. And this is going to basically say, okay, from the 4.0 branch or higher, we can see here that it actually has version 4.0.1, but it should upgrade us to that. So we're just basically making sure we're getting the latest version. We're going to go ahead and then add that package to our project. And we can see now our package dependencies, we have Gifu. And let's go ahead and also import it by using the import, then capital GIFU, which is going to import that module. Wonderful. Next thing we need to do is we need to add the GIF to our project so we're able to display it. You can download these from the internet. There's lots of great websites like Tenor, I think it's Tenor. There's hundreds and hundreds of look at these, of different GIFs and different GIF websites if you want to download one. So let's go ahead and grab one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and grab the banana dance. I think this is from the peanut butter jelly meme. Oh yeah, there he is, like in 2D. I'm going to grab the banana. So I'm going to save this image, save it to my downloads, ensure banana-dance. Great. Now when adding this to your Xcode project, I would recommend actually not putting it in your assets. I've had nothing but issues when it's come to adding GIFs to my assets, and instead I'm going to add it to kind of this main directory here with our other Swift files. So I'm going to grab it from my downloads, drag and drop it on in there. And we can see we have our banana dance, and we can display it like this. If we were to try to display this as an image, like just with the normal image view, it either won't show or it'll just be a static image. So if we were to open up our library, just for example, our banana dance GIF, we're trying to add it like this, we notice that nothing happens. But that's why we're using Gifu to get to the bottom of this. Okay, so we're going to create a structure. We're going to keep our content view here because it is a view, and this is where we'll be displaying the GIF. However, we need to first create a structure for the GIF view itself, so we're able to reference it in our code. So let's go ahead and create a struct, and we'll call it Gifu GIF View. Gifu GIF View. And this is going to conform to the UIViewRepresentable. Or sorry, representable. The autofill is correct there. Within these braces, we're going to go ahead and say, let name be a string. So this is going to be the name of the GIF that we're passing through. We're also going to create some methods or functions within our structure here. And we're going to call this one make UI view. We're going to pass through some context, which is going to be the capital T context. And then we're going to be returning, so we're going to add our little arrow there, the GIF image view. And since we've imported Gifu, we should be good to go there. Within the braces here, we're going to establish our image view, and then we're going to basically say, okay, you're going to create the GIF, we're going to add the aspect ratio, and then return it. So let image view, and this is going to equal the GIF image view, the empty brackets, and then we're going to go ahead and establish that we want this image view to animate. So we'll do image view dot animate. And then within the brackets, we can see that we have lots of different autofill options. I was going to go ahead and use the with GIF named. So with GIF in all caps, named, and then we're going to be passing through that string value of name, which is why we created it earlier. And then let's also add the content mode. So the imageview.content mode, and you can play around with this. Definitely use the dot notation. I'm going to do mine probably scale aspect fit. We can always change it if it's a little bit janky. Then we're going to return that image view. Awesome. We're going to make one more function here, and this is going to actually update the UI view with that kind of GIF image. So we'll call it update UI view. We do have some autofill options here, so we should be good to go. Essentially, we're just passing through that context. We actually don't need anything within the code here. Great. Now within our content view, we're pretty much all set and good to go. We just need to reference our structure here. So we're going to reference the GIF image view. We can choose the one where we can pass through the name. And for that name, it was banana-dance. Now, because it is a string value, let's make sure that we wrap it up in those quotation marks. And let's go ahead and add a frame real quick. So we'll do maybe 200 by 200. Awesome. We'll go ahead and refresh the preview. Should just take a moment. And assuming that everything works the way it should, which it definitely will, we should be able to see our banana dancing in just a moment here. And there it is, our dancing banana GIF. Now, something I'd recommend doing, especially if you are going to be using this third-party library, or if you're going to be using it in the future, I would actually suggest kind of highlighting this structure and maybe even also including the import, right-clicking, creating a code snippet, and we can just call it, Gifu, GIF integration, or whatever makes sense for you. Maybe it's structure. And you can add a summary, adds GIFs using Gifu import. People who are like, it's GIF. He keeps saying GIF and it's GIF. But yeah, you can then hit done. And now, as long as we have the import, we can add it to any other Swift file that we wanted to with our code snippets from our code library. Go over here, we can see the user. We can drag and drop that one on in wherever we'd like. Sometimes I'll also include like a sample of how it's added, but this one's pretty self-explanatory. So that's the easy way to display a GIF from within your Xcode project. Now I'm going to go over a little bit more of the pro way, which is bridging more of that UI kit, kind of writing all the backend code yourself, but it's also, pretty great to kind of learn and test these things out. Before we do that, let's go ahead and see it on the simulator as well. It's also funny, it's like canvas paused, but it's still playing the dancing banana. I made a good choice for this GIF. All right, and we can see we have our little banana dancing on the simulator and on the preview. Look at them go. Little dance off. So yeah, you can do whatever you want. Again, this is just displaying it within a view. So if you want to add text, build our view around it, change where it's positioned and things like that. I will say GIFs can be somewhat taxing if done this way. So use them a little bit sparingly. Don't spam and overload the screen. Otherwise they might lag a little bit. Okay, cool. So we have our dancing banana or whatever GIF you do choose to include. Okay, I'm just going to create a new SwiftUI view because I want to kind of talk about the more pro way, and that's by using the UIViewRepresentable. And you're going to actually notice a lot of similar concepts here as we go through the importing. The big difference is because we were using the import with Gifu to do a lot of the heavy lifting here, is that essentially we're going to be going through and reiterating and looping through each frame of that GIF. If we go ahead and just open up the GIF, I'm gonna choose the shocked cat one, and I open it in preview, we can actually see that it's just a series of frames. So as we kind of go through these frames, apparently frame number 5 doesn't want to show, but if I hold down the down arrow key, we can kind of see we're looping through these frames really quickly, right? And so what we're going to be doing is essentially creating a loop that says, okay, go through from frame 1 all the way to the end, we'll count it out, and then repeat that process. So it's basically going to be doing what I was doing, holding down that down arrow key in order to kind of finish the process of displaying all of these images in a loop. And this is a little bit difficult, and I do suggest using a third-party package if that's not something you're interested in and you're kind of more curious about, actually bridging UIKit in SwiftUI, then this is actually a pretty great learning moment. So we're going to be importing UIKit, but don't worry, we're not going to be doing any dragging or dropping or any crazy nonsense there. We just need it to, kind of support our image view. I'm also going to be importing what we call image.io. Again, also needed to display and process the GIFs within our SwiftUI apps. So before we get to the view where we're actually displaying, similarly, we're going to be creating another structure, and we'll just call this one GIF view. This is also going to conform to the UIViewRepresentable. UIViewRepresentable. We can add our brace. So we will need to follow some similar protocols. So let's go ahead and establish the GIF name. If you want to just call it name, go for it. As long as you are keeping these things unique, right? GIF name is pretty descriptive though. So it's once again going to be that label for the GIF. Let's also really quickly, before we forget, go ahead and add that shock and surprise. We'll use that one for this example here. Okay, we're going to make our function, and we'll call this one make UI view. Going to be passing through that context. Then we're going to be returning the UI image view. So again, very similar concept. Instead of the Gifu that's handling this for us, we're going to be using the UI image view. And this is used because it supports frame-based animation from multiple images. Like I said, we're going to kind of be looping through those. Let's go ahead and establish our image view. I'm just going to equal that UI image view. Using that camel case, empty brackets. Then we'll want to do some scaling. This way we can kind of keep the aspect ratio. Again, you can play around with these. Some might be better than others. So we'll do our content mode, and I'm going to do the .scale aspect fit. Once again, I find this one's usually the best for not warping any of our images. And then we're going to have our image view, and we're going to do the .clips to bounds, and that's going to equals true, which is going to prevent the GIF from overflowing its frame boundaries. Now we get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty. So we essentially need to load the GIF data from the app bundle and decode it into frames. So we're going to say if let path equals B bundle. Then we're going to look at the main path, so main.path, and we can choose the for resource here. So for the resource, well, it's going to be that GIF name that we are passing through, and of type, it's going to be the GIF extension. So we're going to do GIF. I'm going to add a comma here, and we're also going to be looking for data. So we're going to say let data equals NS data, and we're going to be looking at the contents of file. We can go ahead and use the autofill here, and instead of this string, it's going to be that path that we just created above. One more comma, as we're going to be looking for now the source, which is going to be the CG image source. And then we want the create with data, and there should be an autofill here. And we're just going to kind of delete what's already included. And instead we're going to put through the data, again, what we had just created above, comma, nil. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and add our brace. And then this is where we're going to be storing each frame of the GIF as a UI image for animations. We're going to get the total amount of frames in the GIF, then loop through them. We still have an error up here, but we'll resolve that at the very end. It just basically, we have to conform it to the protocol. Okay, so let's start off by creating our array of images, right? When we looked at that GIF, we saw it was broken down into different frames. So var images, and this is going to be an array of UI image. And we're going to declare it to be empty to start. We'll be populating it as we go. We're then going to create a count, which is going to equal the CG image source get count. Should be the first autofill here. And this is going to be from the source here. Again, we're already establishing all of these different things ahead of time. Now we're just accessing them. So the count is going to be the total number of frames within the GIF. Now we're going to loop through all those frames and add them to the images array. So we'll do a for loop for I in 0, and then we're going to do the dot dot, and we're going to do the greater than. I guess that's the less than symbol, right? Yeah. The crocodile should be eating the count. I always get those ones confused. Crocodile wants the larger number. Okay, once that's set up, we're going to then extract the CG image for each frame and convert it into a UI image. So we're going to be using an if-let for this. We're going to be creating a CG image. And that's once again going to be our CG image. This time we're going to do the source create image at index and use our autofill here. So we want to be looking at this source once again. For the integer, we're going to be using I, right? As we're iterating through this for loop, we have the I that's going to be, kind of tracking where we are, that index. And then finally, we're going to be looking at the dictionary, which we don't have. So that will just be nil. I'm going to add a brace after this bracket here. And this is where we're going to be then appending into our empty, for now, images array. So we're going to look at our images dot append. Add to the array. It's going to be UI image. We're going to add our brackets, which is the CG image. Sorry, it should be lowercase CG image, which is going to conform to the CG image once again. So just to go over everything one more time. So essentially, we are loading up the GIF path from the bundle and decoding it into those separate frames, which it already kind of comes as. Then we're going down here and we're sorting each frame of the GIF as a UI image for animation. We're then grabbing the count, so the number of images, adding them to the array. Then based off of all the images that we have, we're looping through all of them, extracting the CG image for each frame to convert it into a UI image for displaying. Ooh, that's a lot of work. Okay, let's go ahead and get out of our for loop. So we want to go 2 braces, 2 closing braces down. We want to make sure that we're still in our source here. And we're going to now assign all extracted frames to the image view for animation. So we can do our image view dot animation images. Yep, that should be right, which equals our array of images. Then we're going to set a duration for smooth animation. So we're going to divide by 15 in order to get about 15 frames per second. You can adjust this number. It's even suggesting 10. We can play around with it and see if it's like really kind of smooth or not smooth. So we're going to have the animation duration, and this is going to be a double. We're going to be using a decimal value after all. And we're going to be passing through the count. Then we're going to divide it by 15. I'm going to do 15.0, so double on double. And this should, equate to about 15 FPS. If you want to do 10 or a different number, go ahead and experiment. Then we're going to start animating the frames, finally displaying that GIF. I know there's a lot to digest with this one. This is why I really suggest really using those third-party libraries when you absolutely can. Okay. We're then going to be hopping out of this brace, and we're going to be hopping back into our main function. But before it closes, so kind of in between these 2 braces, we're then going to be finally returning that image view. We're not quite out of the woods yet. Still within our big old structure here, we do have that error as it does not conform to the protocol. And just like we did before, we're going to add that function in order to appease it, essentially, and that's the update UI view. If it does provide the autofill, definitely just go with it. Otherwise, underscore. It's weird that it's provided it last time, and this time it's like, nah, type it out. The UI image view. Then we have our context, which is context. And we're just appeasing the protocol here, so we can actually leave this with empty braces. And we should be good. No more errors. So now that's actually all that's left is to display the image. So we called this the structure of GIF view. So now let's go ahead in our view where we're actually displaying. So this one's just called SwiftUI view. Let's reference that GIF view. We need our GIF name. So this one was shocked dash surprised. We go ahead and add a frame real quick. Yeah, we'll just do like 200 by 200. Go ahead and load our preview. I haven't been doing the auto update previews. I've been finding it's been lagging my Mac a little bit. Happens. So I've just kind of been doing the manual refreshes. But we should be able to see our kitty GIF who is shocked and surprised. And if you have a different name for your GIF, obviously that file name would go within those string parameters. And there we are. So we can see that our GIF is now displaying. You might want to, mess with the aspect ratio. If you find it's, really choppy or making your phone lag, or you need to adjust the frame rate, we can even just add a comment here, frame rate, kind of FPS, whatever. If it changes down to be 10, might not be like immediately noticeable, but, it's just going to kind of change the duration that it's looping through and kind of the FPS for those GIFs. If you have a really long, large GIF, it's probably going to be a little bit more noticeable than this one, which doesn't have that many frames. I guess I can kind of notice it on 10. It does feel a little bit slower. I wonder if I change, hold on. Experiment time. What's the frame rate going to be on this one? Is it going to be like super duper quick? Let's see. Oh my goodness, with 60, look how fast it is. That's pretty funny. Okay, I'm going to put it back down to 15. If you do, also want to make a custom code snippet with this one, again, I would suggest maybe even taking this whole thing and keeping the example, right? Even if you have the SwiftUI view, then you create your own code snippet. So you can just call it, display GIF, no third party, or whatever name makes sense in your head. And now you can use this across all of your projects if you do plan on adding GIFs there. Last but certainly not least, I want to talk about WebView, where we can actually grab GIF URLs and actually use them in order to display those URL'd GIFs within our application. And we're actually going to be using the WebKit for that one. So I'm just on Giphy. I'm going to grab my catwork GIF, one of my favorites. Where's the one where he's typing on the keyboard? Yeah, okay. I'm going to be grabbing this link here. I'm going to copy it to the back in Xcode. Let's go ahead and make a new SwiftUI view. New file from template. SwiftUI view, and we'll call this one WebGIF or something. Okay, once again, you're going to notice a lot of common themes here. So we're going to start with our import, which is going to be WebKit, and then we're going to create a new struct. And this is how we're going to be, grabbing the WebGIF URL and making sure that everything's good to go. We're going to call it WebGIFView. Once again, conforms to the UIViewRepresentable. We're going to add our brace here. Okay, we're going to establish our URL, which is going to conform to the URL, all caps. Oh, not URL request. It entered too many times. All right, function, make UI view. Wow. I wonder if we're going to have context and then pass through the context again. We are. That's crazy. What are we going to be returning? Well, this time it's going to be a WKWebView. We're going to add our brace. So let's go ahead and establish our web view. And this is going to equal the WKWebView. Wonderful, empty brackets. From here, access that web view that we just created. We're going to actually look at the scroll view property of the web view, and we're going to disable it so it's more of a static image that we can kind of just view. We don't care about scrolling on this image here. So we're going to take our scroll view dot is scroll enabled. Again, going to set this to be false. We're then going to load that URL. So in this case, we're going to once again access the WebView dot load, and then we're going to look at the URL request. This time we're using the URL request. Within the brackets afterwards, we're going to be passing through that URL from the URL that we've established above here. Just good code and good practice. From there, we're returning the WebView. Then, as we learned before, because it's the UIViewRepresentable, we need to appease the protocol. So we're going to do the update UIView. Surely it'll autofill. Oh man, no autofill. Okay, that's totally fine. Also, don't worry about these errors. Oh, you know what? I just realized these structures are named the exact same thing. So I'm actually going to just change this to be WebGIF, and then leave this other one as view here. Okay. We need to do the underscore UI view, which is going to this time conform to the WKWebView. And that context is also just going to be that context with capital C. Then we're going to add our empty argument brackets. Again, we're essentially just appeasing our UIViewRepresentable to make sure that it's happy. Oh, lagging back. There we go. It was resolving all those errors. It is like, what are you doing to me? I think it's also because I'm recording. So, you know, it's like recording this and then displaying it on my OBS. So it's like ×2. All right, where was that? Where's that GIF? Okay, let's go ahead and copy that URL. We can see it's copied to the clipboard. I'm closing this because my computer's gonna blow up. Now let's reference our WebGIF structure. And we know that we need to pass through a URL, but we can't just paste this string. Otherwise it's gonna freak out a little bit. Instead, we need to basically say, I am passing through a URL value. Now we're gonna add our brackets and we're gonna say, here's the string representing the URL. We're gonna add our quotation marks. Then we're going to paste in our Giphy link here, which is a pretty long one. We still do get an error because we need to either force unwrap it or provide it with a fallback. I'm going to opt to force unwrap it. So in between the kind of ending brackets here, I'm going to use that exclamation point. And we should be good to go. We can add a frame if we really want to, but let's go ahead and load it up. I mean, you can always apply any adjustments that you need to. This is a view after all. Might take a second to load, but we should be good to go. Oh, Giphy, use our app. No, I just want to be the kitty. Oh, hold on. There's like a little cookie policy. I gotta press agree. It's funny because again, we are using the WebView, so it's kind of showing this Giphy thing. You know, I wonder real quick. I'm just gonna copy. Maybe there's like a little bit of a hack we could do with Giphy specifically. 1 second. Okay. So if you're using Giphy specifically, go ahead and copy the link in the first place, paste the link in your browser, and then once it's in the browser, you can see we don't have like all the other kind of elements in the background, and you're going to copy this link, the one that starts with media. I don't know if this is just a Giphy thing, but if you're following along and you're like, why is this showing the whole website? That's not what I want. And then paste that media.giphy link in here. Let's go ahead and refresh it and see if that helps. Okay, yeah, there we go. Now we have just the GIF. That looks a lot better, although it's a little bit slow. Oh, there we go, it's just loading. Now it's caught up. Perfect. So that's how you can, with 3 different methods, display GIFs in your SwiftUI apps. So let's do a quick wrap up, kind of like the verdict. When should we use what? So if we want to use the Gifu library, that's where we did our banana dance. This one is fast, easy, reliable, but the only thing is it adds a dependency through the package, so you kind of have less control. For the UIViewRepresentable, this is where there's no dependencies, you have total control. You also kind of learn a little bit more about fundamentals, but it's a little bit more code. You can build it once and reuse it later. And then when we have our WebView, this is great for any remote content. However, it's a lot heavier and way less SwiftUI native. So if you're using just a quick prototype, definitely use the Gifu library. If you're trying to learn and master everything, build your own with the UIViewRepresentable. You have that dynamic content. WebView, you can use it, but using it, you might want to use it a little bit more sparingly. So you now know those 3 ways to display the GIFs in SwiftUI: the easy button, the pro way, and the web way. Each has its pros and cons. Choose the one that fits your needs perfectly and for your project. Otherwise, dream big, code bigger, and I will be putting the kind of sample project in the description below, so you can go ahead and download that if you want everything at a glance. Otherwise, have a great day.